Shalom. Call Haloyamla, Yahapwa, Bahasham, Yahapushai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash, Brakta Yahapwa, Brakta Yahapushai, Brakta Racha Kodash, Bahasham, Yahapushai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Shalom and double honors unto the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elders and the Akim and the Akwath. Shalom. I want to go into a quick video. Today is December 24th. On this so-called, Christmas Eve, which is, a holiday of Satan, one of the greater satanic holidays of Babylon Great's day, of their year. So, got a few articles here. I'll leave all of the links to the articles in the description. And y'all can have these for your, reference and read it yourself. But so we'll start off here in this article right here. It says the Nimrod tree, Nimrod, the Lord of Christmas. So it says the Nimrod tree. It says Nimrod started the great organized worldly apostasy from God that has dominated this world until now. Nimrod married his own mother, whose name was Semiramis. That's pure wickedness, because Semiramis was married to Cush. Cush is Nimrod's father, and then Nimrod, Semiramis wickedly married, on some abomination. And so was Semiramis. So any spirituality or so-called spirituality or so-called religion from those two is an abomination to begin with. After Nimrod's death, his so-called mother wife, Semiramis, propagated the evil doctrine of the survival of Nimrod as a spirit being. She claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth unto new life of the dead Nimrod. So basically, the tree stump represented Nimrod dying, and then the evergreen tree is representing him springing back to life, and his spirit was at that at that evergreen tree. And that's what people have in their house today. Not realizing what it is, and when you tell them, they come up against you and just say that it's just to have a good time. People want to just stay ignorant, instead of coming up against and coming up against the wickedness that it represents. So an evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead stump, which symbolized the springing forth into new life of the dead Nimrod. Each anniversary of his birth, she claimed, Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. And that's what that sounded like, Wicked Santa. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod. This is the real origin of the Christmas tree. So just want to bring out the origins of that. It says traditionally a Yule log was burned in the fireplace. So this Yule log is interesting. I had looked that up and have an article briefly breaking that down and show the wickedness of that. Traditionally, and how it applies today. Traditionally, a Yule log was burned in the fireplace on Christmas Eve. And during the night, as the log's embers died, there appeared in the room, as if by magic, a Christmas tree surrounded by gifts. So people, this is just fairy tale, because they already have the tree and they decorate it and put gifts under it, right? But they want to act like it's just pretty ignorant. They act like the log is like a ritual that they would do back in the old times. These days they don't burn a Yule log, but that's what that Yule log represented. They burn it. That represents Nimrod dying, and the ruins of the log represented Nimrod dying, and then like that stump that Semiramis falsely claimed, and then that Christmas, the evergreen Christmas tree, is supposed to be Nimrod resurrected. So it says surrounded by gifts, the Yule log. Okay, let me see. A Christmas tree surrounded by gifts. The Yule log represented the sun god Nimrod, and the sun god, also another name for the sun god Nimrod, is Baal. So that's the main chief deity that all the heathen worship is Baal, and that's Nimrod, that they deified as a sun, quote unquote so-called sun god. The Yule log represented the sun god Nimrod, and the Christmas tree represented himself, resurrected as his own son Tammuz. So Tammuz was supposed to be Nimrod reincarnated from the sun god. Foolishness. So reading down further, it says, so our Christmas tree and our Yule log have tremendous meaning, but not a Christian meaning. And it's paganism of Satan, and it's basically one of the chief cornerstone foundational wicked religion of all heathen that follow after the ancient Babylonian religion of Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. And from those three, all heathen religions was created, and every nation have their own form and version, have their own deified, own false deity and false god of Nimrod and Semiramis and Tammuz. All throughout all of the heathen nations, all of their gods go back to Semiramis, Nimrod, who is Baal, and also Tammuz. If you do the research, you can trace it, that all of these other heathen gods go back to Semiramis, Nimrod, and Tammuz, which is, their foundation is real plain once you look at it and see that that's what it goes to under Satan and not the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah. So it says, the Yule log is the dead Nimrod, human ruler of ancient Babylon, because he went and he became a mighty hunter, as spoken of and Most High mentions in the book of Genesis. And he founded the city of Assyria, which was a very strong war city, strong military city. And that was the capital of Babylon, of ancient Babylon, Assyria. The Yule log is the dead Nimrod, human ruler of the ancient Babylon, who was eventually deified as the Son incarnate, and hence a god. The Christmas tree is mythical. The Christmas tree is mystical to Tammuz. The slain god come to life again. So that slain god, so that Yule log that was burnt represented Nimrod, aka Baal, died, and then he got resurrected, and as Tammuz, and Nimrod and Tammuz go hand in hand. That's the Christmas tree. So reading on, it says, Dale, we just read that. Okay. So so we'll get that. So that'll be that for that article right there. And we'll get this one. It says Nimrod, the Lord of Christmas. It says Nimrod married his own mother, whose name was Semiramis. After Nimrod's death, his so-called mother wife, Semiramis, propagated the evil doctrine of the survival of Nimrod as a spirit being. She claimed a full-grown evertree, basically saying the same thing, but we'll keep on reading. It says she claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth unto new life of the dead Nimrod. On each anniversary of his birth, she claimed Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod. So that's whoever celebrates Christmas is worshiping Nimrod and not the Messiah. It has nothing to do with Yahweh Shah. So it says, this is the real origin of the Christmas tree. Traditionally, a Yule log was burnt in the fireplace. Okay, yeah, we pretty much reading the same thing again, but dropping down, it says the Yule log represented the sun god Nimrod, and the Christmas tree represented himself, resurrected as his own son Tammuz. Christmas as a pagan holiday traces back thousands of years before to a man named Nimrod, founder of ancient pagan Babylon, and he's the founder of all pagan heathen gods and false religions. So December 25th was highly honored and recognized by Nimrod supporters. Many centuries later, this pagan custom was Christianized as being the birthday of Christ, and that's blasphemy and profanity because they added on to the Holy Scriptures, and they will be destroyed for adding on to the words of the Most High. The Bible strictly speaks against Baal and the Queen of Heaven and Tammuz. The Queen of Heaven is Semiramis, who is Nimrod's, wicked, abominable mother wife. So, okay, so now going to the next article, getting a little bit more on it right here. It says, the truth of Genesis, the real birthday of the Messiah. It says, what does the truth of Genesis have to do with Jesus? We know his name is Yahushua. Jesus is another false name. And the vibration of Jesus is Cesare Borgia, a so-called white man, an Edomite, and not Yahushua. So when you Google Jesus, it pulls up an Edomite, so-called white man. But when you Google Yahushua, it pulls up the true depiction of the Messiah, which is Revelation 1, chapter 1, verse 13 through 15. Genesis chapter 1 is the first revelation in the Bible of the Lord Yahushua. And someone is a bug out here, they said Yesuha, and that's not his name, it's Yahushua. Yah means he, and Yahushua means delivers, he delivers. As explained in the observations of Moses PowerPoint presentation, the reason Gentiles of today commemorate his birthday on the wrong date is because of what happened several years after the flood of Noah, which was in 2611 BC. Ham, one of the three sons of Noah, had a son named Cush, who later had a son named Nimrod. So we'll go ahead and drop down. You can read the whole article if you want, but I'm going to drop down and get a little bit more on the key parts right here in this next paragraph right here. It says, certain sources outside the Bible say that Shem actually is Sham, S-H-A-M, which means name. That's the bloodline in which the name of the Most High would be professed and have a chosen people through the bloodline of Shem. Nimrod was a son through the bloodline of Ham, which was so-called African nations today. But Nimrod was Shem's grandson. So it says, what was his nephew? It says certain sources outside the Bible say that Shem, Nimrod's great uncle, oldest son of Noah, tried to quell such ungodly worship by killing Nimrod. So Shem, through documentation of secular history, Shem is the one who killed Nimrod for his wickedness. Oldest son of Noah tried to quell such ungodly worship by killing Nimrod and scattering his body parts across the countryside. So Shem means name. The name of Yahweh would be called upon through the bloodline of Shem. And Shem proves that Shem was of the righteous bloodline because he went and killed and was against Nimrod that was pushing Satanism and pushing his own false satanic religion, that all the heathen nations would learn of that false doctrine, and then they would go to their own nations, their own boundaries, and in countries, and have their own version of Nimrod worship. Tried to quell, okay, we read that. Scattering his body parts across the countryside made an example of Nimrod. By Nimrod being recognized as being a quote-unquote god, his wife, named Saturnalia, that's another name, for Semiramis, would be recognized as being a goddess, and that's the mother of heaven, that's the queen of heaven, the moon goddess. She didn't want to lose that title and prestige, so when Nimrod died, after Shem righteously killed Nimrod, then what happened? She didn't want to. She knew that she would weaken now, so she lied, concocted this story here. She didn't want to lose that title and prestige of the Queen of Heaven, so she declared that Nimrod, upon mortal death, ascended up into the heavens and became the sun god, and that's how Baal became, when Nimrod died, he became the sun god. And the project continued. I'm guessing at this time, God divided the continents, scattered mankind into 70 locations. Okay, well, this is the article, the guy that wrote this article speaking as a man, so we won't, listen to none of that part at the end right there. So we'll drop down right here. It says about 8 months later, remaining in the land of Shinar. And if you read in the Holy Scriptures, I believe the prophet Daniel, he was during the Babylonian captivity of Nebuchadnezzar. It speaks about Shinar, and that's in the land of Babylon. And so that's the ancient Babylonian landmass. So about 8 months later, after Nimrod died, Saturnalia, that's Semiramis, became pregnant because she was, sleeping around, and she got pregnant. And she became pregnant and had to rescue her situation. Her being pregnant and being unlawful, more than likely, she was probably, being, a whore, pretty much. So it says she then claimed that her late husband, that Nimrod, which was now the sun, impregnated her with the rays of the sun. And isn't that foolishness? She concocted this crazy story. And the scriptures say there is little wickedness as to the wickedness of a woman. So she created this crazy, out of this world story that the sun rays, which came directly from Baal, which was Nimrod, and impregnated her. That's why she was pregnant, instead of saying that she was a whore and she got pregnant that way. Impregnated her with the rays of the sun, and her son, which she named Tammuz, was born on the winter solstice. Tammuz was worshipped as the reincarnation of the sun god Nimrod. So she's saying that Nimrod died, went to become the sun god. He was in the sun, and then he impregnated her from the sun with his sun rays. And the baby and child is now, she named it Tammuz, but that was Nimrod coming back into the physical realm of bodies and became Tammuz. And his birthday is recognized up until this day on December 25th. It's all pagan, evil, satanic nonsense. And so getting this Yule log that they would burn, and that was interesting. I came across this article here. It says Yule log, this traditional Christmas dessert is made to impress. So they make the wicked cave beasts, and this is it right here in this video they're showing you. It looks like a log, right? But it's a dessert. And it reminded me of this dessert that I used to love as a kid. It's called Swiss cake rolls. And that's exactly that's the origin of that dessert. And I won't eat that anymore because of what that represents, because it's basically it's going into idolatry and sacrificing it to idols. So Yule log, this traditional Christmas dessert, is made to impress. It says the Yule log is a classic Christmas dessert. So every aspect of the ancient Babylonian false religion is in today's celebration of Christmas, of false Christmas, right? It says, after all, Reed Drummond saw them in the pages of cooking magazines for years, so it's about time she attempted to make a Yule log cake herself. Step by step, it's assembled as a magical treat. Wickedness. Bake a cake, fill it with sweet filling, roll it up, frost it. Say it looks like a gorgeous woodland log straight out of a fairy tale. It's not out of a fairy tale. It's out of Greek. It's out of ancient Babylonian Nimrod, son of Nimrod Tammuz, worship that that Semiramis created. It says, what's the tradition behind a Yule log cake? Over the history of Christmas, Yule logs date back to the 1600s. See, this is a Bacon article right here, but they're not telling you the full truth, because this is Edomite lies right here. As we just read, it goes back thousands of years, way back to the beginning of the Babylonian empire of Nimrod Semiramis, which came up with that lie about Tammuz. Date back to the 1600s, when families would burn the real log on Christmas Eve to symbolize the coming of the new year and good luck. It's pure, pagan heathenistic customs. Then they were popularized in French bakeries during the 19th century, where they get their other common name, Boucher de Noël. So it says many of these lovely Christmas cakes are garnished with elaborate meringue, mushrooms, and other edible woodland creatures. But you'll love this, okay? It says right here, it says Yule logs are traditionally made around the winter holidays. Why? Because of Nimrod. Since they have such a show-stopping quality and make a great centerpiece at a Christmas party. Why would that be the centerpiece of a Christmas party and not food? Because the origins of it, and if you see down here at the bottom left down here, they're showing you that they make it out of a log. It looks basically like a log, but it's edible cake. So it all begins with that Yule log. They burn it, which represents Nimrod. And then they say then they already have the Christmas tree already decked out, and they say that the Christmas tree, is Nimrod resurrected, and it's Tammuz, and that's through Tammuz, as he came back as Tammuz. So that's pure wickedness on the left hand side. So they call it a show-stopping thing. They say and they are billing it and building it up as a positive thing when it's actually of Satan. So that's the origins of Christmas. And I'll leave every one of these articles in the description. You can read it up for yourself and get edified further, and knowing what's wicked and being able to cut those that and inform and educate those that that are following these evil satanic ancient customs. So Jeremiah 10 and verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, speaketh unto you, O house of Israel, because all the heathen nations, righteousness was never given. It says, thus saith the Most High Power Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, because they worship us. They worship the signs in heaven, the sun, the moon, the stars, and they made gods. They made Nimrod the sun god, Semiramis the moon god, and Tammuz, the reincarnation of Baal, which is Nimrod. Verse 3, for the customs of the people are vain, vain going to empty. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, that's the evergreen tree, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. So they go out there and they chop down the tree, and they do that today. That's one of their happy customs. They go and they make it a whole event. Go to the Christmas area, Christmas tree sellers. They go to the areas with the evergreen trees, and they chop it down themselves, and they bring it back home, tie it on top of their vehicle, and bring it home and deck it out. Verse 4, they deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. And that was the old custom. That was the old ancient way of how they did it. Now they have, more modern ways to stabilize it now. But this is all going back to ancient Babylon. They are upright as a palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Meaning people create the customs of this whole satanic ritual. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. The tree can't move. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. So these people are wicked, and the customs is wicked. Verse 6, for as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. So, just do what the Most High say. These customs are vain and they're wicked. They're very wicked, very lame as well. So, these people are following the ancient customs of Nimrod and Semiramis. So from there we'll get Psalms chapter 4 and verse 2. It says, O ye sons of men, how long will ye turn my glory into shame? So this is great. This is direct blasphemy, and saying that the Most High, only begotten Son Yahushai, birthday is is on that day when it has nothing to do, with the with the Messiah, because when you put those, because people put those put those gifts underneath the trees, and that's sacrificing unto idols. Because that's what the people are doing. Because Semiramis says that Nimrod's spirit is in the tree, and on someone's birthday, what they do today? What do people receive on their birthday when they have their parties? Gifts, whether money or something, or some kind of other gift. So that's the same thing you're doing with that tree. That's why it's like why would you put a tree? Why are people putting gifts underneath a tree? It's because they are sacrificing it to Baal, and it's idolatry, giving gifts unto Baal/Tammuz. It says, "How long will ye turn my glory into shame? How long will ye love vanity and seek after leasing?" Salah. So leasing goes into sin. A lie, untruth, falsehood, deceptive thing. So it's a falsehood and it's deceptive, and these are lies and untruths. This Christmas, saying that it's the Messiah's birthday, when it's all about worshiping Tammuz, Nimrod Tammuz, and doing what Semiramis had had concocted a story of Nimrod living through the tree. So verse 3, "But know that the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai has set apart him that is godly for himself." That's the elect of Israel. "The Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai will hear when I call unto him." So that's so only those that keep the commandments of the Most High will be heard. Verse 5, "Offer the sacrifices of righteousness and put your trust in the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai." And we see that this society, we just read about the whole origins of Christmas, right? So they're trusting in man, following after what Nimrod and Semiramis put forth. And who pushes that today? So-called white man, the Edomites, that now are directly under Satan now, pushing the ancient Nimrod Babylonian false holiday, and they're making sacrifices of untruth and unrighteousness. And what sacrifices we should be making? Romans 12 and verse 1. "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy." So what's that? Holy, being separate from what? The evil, wicked world, following after the foundational religion, false religions of Satan that's pushed through Nimrod and Semiramis and the so-called white race, push it forward today, and all the heathen. "Acceptable unto Yahweh, which is your reasonable service." So that means that's mandatory. Like, you live your whole life dedicated and sacrificing your living in this world and doing the things of this world, making yourself holy, then you can be acceptable to the Most High, and that's a reasonable thing. That means that's mandatory, and that's a given. You're supposed to do that. So you're not special. You're just making yourself separate from the evil world, doing what we were created to do, and that's worship the Most High and do what He tell you and follow the Lamb Yahushua. Verse 2, be not conformed to this world, but and celebrating these wicked holidays, you're conforming to Satan by doing that. "But be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind," because we were doing these things before we were awakened and called into the light of the Most High, and learned the truth, and learned true righteousness, and learned that that's wicked, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh. So we know what is acceptable, and we know what's perfect. The law is perfect, so we must keep the commandments. So when you become holy, which means separate, you keeping the laws of the Most High, and you're shunning and rebuking the vain, evil, wicked customs of Satan. So we just want to kind of go into that. I'll leave these links to the articles in the description. And I hope this video was edifying. To the next video I say, Shalom.